Back at it again here in the place to be. RIC Ric Serritella, ton of like it is here for this Monday draft week. Hello, April the 25th, 2021. Today's show brought to you by NFLDraftBible.com, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. We're broadcasting live from the great island of the Jersey Shore around the universe. Been looking at those NFL Draft Bible analytics. A lot of you guys checking in from the UK and Canada. Shout out to Mexico. Shout out to India. All you guys across the globe waking up with us here today on this jam-packed edition of the State of Football. Ric Serritella. I'll be joined by my usual Monday co-host Ralph Ventre. Later on in the show, we got an FCS Spotlight special lined up for you, chopped up, diced like the Sunday morning gravy. Hey, I got the Scouts notebook, tons and tons of notes that we're going to get to. We're going to talk some top 10 scenarios, what that's shaping up and looking like. A lot of funny movement out in Vegas on the draft odds, who could be the number one overall pick. The whole top 10 is wild and crazy. It's all shook up like an Elvis song. So we're going to talk about that. How about right here in my home state of New Jersey, the Giants, the Jets, each with 2 picks inside the top 10. My understanding are the Jets are looking to move up. Giants are looking to move down. Joe Shane, Brian Dabble wasting no time trying to put their imprint on this roster. In fact, James Bradbury, the cornerback, is on the trade block. He's expected to be dealt this week. Kadarius Toney, if there's a suitor for him, the Giants are attempting to get rid of Toney, who's just a bad apple. Bradbury for the contract status. Does a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau or Sauce Gardner fall to the Giants? We'll get into some of that. Oh, by the way, if you're out there in Las Vegas, big shout out to everybody out at the NAB conference, the National Association of Broadcasters. It's a huge event each year out in Vegas. It's going on right now. So Las Vegas is going to get turned upside down this week with the NAB conference, which has been held out there in Vegas for a long time. And then the influx of, what is estimated to be 1 million visitors throughout the course of the draft weekend on the Strip, on the Boulevard in Las Vegas. Who would have thunk it? It seemed like yesterday the NFL was putting the kibosh on Tony Romo and his fantasy football tournament because it was held out in Vegas. Now all of a sudden the draft is being held there, which they're attempting to do for the second time in 3 years. And, last year was a little bit of an oddity out in Cleveland. We were still kind of just emerging from the pandemic. But in 2020, Nashville, who had 600,000 visitors in the 3-day span, they generated $224 million of economic impact, according to the data out there provided by the NFL. Now, last year, we mentioned the pandemic draft in Cleveland. It was just a $42 million boom for the city of Cleveland. So a stark difference. I think it's going to exceed the Nashville attendance and the revenue in terms of impact and what that will look like for the great city of Las Vegas, who really had it rough during the COVID-19 pandemic. And they are, from my understanding, reading the local articles in the Las Vegas Journal-Review and such, close to where they were pre-pandemic, close to being 100%. So that's good news for our old stomping grounds. Shout out Samantha behind the scenes, our old stomping grounds of Las Vegas. This is the State of Football. This is RIC and the place to be. Ric Serritella, Christmas week. We got some really good guests lined up for you today. We were scheduled to have Trevor Penning to kick off the show. We're waiting to hear back from the Northern Iowa offensive tackle, one of my favorite players in this year's draft. So hopefully we'll pop him on. Cole Strange out of Chattanooga, potential top 100 selection, will join us later on in the show. We'll also have Monmouth safety, 4-year starter, 3-time first team All-American Anthony Budd, who really caught our attention out at the Monmouth Pro Day, which I was in attendance for, along with my Monday co-host, Ralph Ventre, who joins us right now on the hotline here on the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. Is Ralph ready to be punched in, Samantha? For the FCS Spotlight, we have a great roundtable discussion coming up. There he is. Bam! Like Emeril Lagasse making the appearance. Sprinkle it in. Good morning, Ralph. How are you on this draft week?
Great. Happy draft week, Rick. It's good to be back in the saddle, chopping it up. Seriously, what better place you could be right now than right here, right now?
Sharpening up the blades. And this is now officially the FCS Chop Shop special. Today, we'll break down some FCS. Speaking of the chop, our contributor Jen McGraw was out at the Rutgers spring game. I saw Zach Petra, the Prez, just posted that article. So if you want to get the sights and sounds and prospects from the Rutgers spring game, we have that up on the website. Of course, Mock Draft Monday. Today is a mock draft every day. Today, Zach hit him with the mock draft. I think tomorrow we're going to have Jack Borowski's mock draft, followed by Lorenz Lineweber on Wednesday. I will unveil my final mock draft on Thursday. And Ralph, I mentioned we'll have Craig Haley later on in the show. We're going to chop it up, FCS Small School Edition. Samantha, if you want to follow up with Julius Chestnut one more time, we're trying to pop him up here too, fresh off of his pro day. And if you're watching at home, by the way, there's a look at the NFL Draft Bible homepage on Sports Illustrated. Make sure you subscribe up on the top upper right corner. If you're facing the screen, that subscribe button there will gain you access to over 600 scouting reports for 2022 and beyond. We got you covered for next year's draft too. And we've got a couple of offensive linemen scheduled for today's show. We have another good one scheduled for tomorrow. Zion Johnson, who I got a chance to see up at the Boston College Pro Day, another potential first-round pick, will join us tomorrow, as will the legendary Bob Wiley, who, if you remember from last year's draft coverage, we had Bob Wiley on talking offensive line. We'll have Coach Keith Grabowski from CoachTube.com. And we're waiting to hear back from Brian Baldinger, of course, good friend of the State of Football and NFL Draft Bible. Some others confirmed this week will be Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina, the tight end there, and then TJ Hammonds, who we tried to have on last week. He'll pop on also on Wednesday. We got a lot of moving and shaking. Happy draft week, Tom Goodhines out there. And we're going to get into some spring football updates. Of course, Hub Football, which Tom is senior vice pres over there, hubfootball.com. Still accepting registrations for the May 7th event, but hurry up. Time is running out. Announcements will be rolling out on social media as well as NFLDraftBible.com. I saw Earl Thomas saying he wants to come back. Earl, come on over to the Hub out in San Diego. We'll try to mix in some spring league football, USFL, fan-controlled football, XFL making news. We got the European League of Football right around the corner. It's a good time to talk football. It's always a good time to chop it up with Ralph Ventre here on this Monday morning. So let's do it. Before we get into some top 10 scenarios here, Ralph, I thought one interesting side note that came out was the Wonderlic scores, which are just always seem to leak out draft week, right? And I know that my understanding was the Wonderlic test was not conducted at the Combine this year, but as everyone should know, the Wonderlic is administrated at these pro days and at the various all-star games. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. We'll try to pop them up, but Kenny Pickett, very surprisingly low, one of the lowest scores. I think he was somewhere around 16 or 19. Malik Willis was, I believe, somewhere around 29 or 30 in that range. Now, I don't put too much stock into the Wonderlic myself. but it is a little wrinkle, a little variable that goes into the pre-draft process.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I hear Wonderlic and NFL draft, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he had the 48 out of 50. I think only 3 or 4 players ever had like at least a 48 on this test. But what does it mean? How does it translate to the next level? I don't know, maybe position. You can make the argument that it means more for a quarterback than it does a running back. A guy like Frank Gore is probably going into the Hall of Fame, and I think he had like a 4 or 5, like one of the lowest ever recorded scores for this Wonderlic test. So it certainly didn't prevent him from having an illustrious career. So, what does it all mean? Is it really just a quarterback thing? It probably just something to talk about, to be honest with you. I don't know if anyone is really using that. Maybe if the score is so exceptional, it makes you take a closer look at the prospect. But I don't think anyone is putting serious stock into this when they're drafting a player. I think that they'll use, as far as intelligence and character, I think the scouts will use their personal interactions with the players, as a judge of intelligence and character rather than the Wonderlic score.
Ralph Ventre here, along with Ric Serritella, Samantha, super producer behind the scenes. Samantha, I'm having some technical difficulties with my audio. Can we run a commercial break and maybe try to tighten that up a little bit and come back in? We'll be back right after this, everybody.
Another Sunday showdown where fearless fantasy tycoons forego the camaraderie of team and embark on teams of their own.
Come on, yes! Let's go.
Nobody cares about your fantasy team, Todd.
Hey!
Maybe nobody used to care about your fantasy teams, but those days are over.
Told you people care about the Todd squad.
Think bigger, Todd. I'm talking about a national fantasy league with teams representing cities and states and managed by fantasy experts who are beholden to us. We're their stakeholders.
I used to be holding a beverage.
Yeah, and then you got chop block, Todd. Offsetting penalties. The point is that we don't have to go mano a mano anymore. Hermanos, sports are more fun when experienced together. And fantasy should be no different. So we'll stake a team, Dean. We'll huddle with our crew, Sue. We'll even DM our GM, Liam. Just like Jerry Jones. How do you like them apples, cowboy?
You have piqued my interest.
Good, because now we can pick the team that we want to run with, the GM that we want to back, the roster that we believe in, but don't want to manage. Because, we all got a lot going on, and some of us have jobs here.
Jobs? Forget it, he's on a roll.
So finally, we can watch our players and discuss our strategy and trash talk our opponents as we watch our fantasy football team together. And if we win,
It's like the fantasy version of fantasy.
no, it's the Hall of Fantasy League, where fantasy becomes a team sport. Are you guys with me?
Yeah!
Introducing the Hall of Fantasy League franchises. The Philadelphia Powder Kegs, the Chicago Hog Mollies, the Boston Barflies, the Vegas Pocket Kings, the Atlanta Hot Wings, the Texas Yallers, the Seattle Haze, the Ohio Goats, the New York Bodega Cats, the LA Sidekicks, Don't miss out on your chance to take part in a new era of fantasy sports. Stake your team today.
Back at it again. All right, seeing a place to be. Ric Serritella, ton like it is on the State of Football kickoff extravaganza bonanza, along with Ralph Ventre at Realist Ralph on Twitter, and we're going to get into some potential top 10 trade scenarios. And we were talking about the quarterbacks: Malik Willis out of Liberty, Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. Currently, Ralph, Malik Willis favored to be the first quarterback off of the board at minus 145, according to Las Vegas. Kenny Pickett expected to be the second quarterback. He's at plus 135. Where it gets interesting, however, is Pickett, not Willis, is the odds-on favorite to be the Carolina Panthers selection at number 6 overall. And we'll get to the top of the draft, but the quarterback situation is very intriguing. Some people think there might be one quarterback taken. Others believe that 5 or 6 could possibly sneak into the first round. What do you make of these quarterback prospects?
Well, first of all, you mentioned Willis moving ahead of Pickett in the odds, and that's a change because once we entered the draft process, I think everybody had Kenny Pickett at the top of the positional board. But then once you got into the combine and the pro days, and of course the Kenny Pickett hand size, and then Malik Willis showed some incredible arm strength in the workouts. Then you saw Willis kind of emerge as the number one guy. But is there really a number one guy this year? That's the whole question. And then, you pointed out the oddity where Willis is favored over Pickett to be the first quarterback selected, but then Pickett is a heavy favorite to be selected at number 6 by the Panthers. So do we think Malik Willis is going in the top 5? I mean, I haven't seen one mock draft scenario that shows that. From what I've heard, this is an edge rusher draft, and you're going to see a big run on those guys and probably offensive tackles early on. And I don't want to criticize the quarterbacks too much because you never know what you could find. Kenny Pickett, from all you hear about the character, and he's a professional, and, if he can physically do it, maybe he's a 12-year pro. Maybe he makes it to 5 Pro Bowls. But with that said, I just don't see any prospect in particular out of this quarterback class that really pops off the page. And I'm preparing a little writing for later on this week. And, it pains me to say it, but this looks like 2013 all over again. And really in 2013, there shouldn't have been any quarterbacks taken in the first round. But, of course, our old friend Buddy Nix made E.J. Manuel a first-rounder, and Geno Smith was the second quarterback off the board. Matt Barkley was in there. Ryan Nassib. I remember there were actually rumors that had Ryan Nassib out of Syracuse going in the first round to the Bills because the Bills coach was Doug Marrone at the time. He had Nassib at Syracuse, and people were actually painting this Nassib like it was like a fairy tale, like this guy was going in no other world was he going in the first round. And of course he washed out of the league, 2 years later. So basically all I'm saying is, Willis, Pickett, they all have traits, and there are all reasons why they should succeed at the NFL level, but buyer beware. Buyer beware. I don't think you can go into this draft and say, hey, I'm locking up my franchise quarterback in round 1. I just don't think the quarterback class is at that level on paper. With that said, there are things that Malik Willis does really well, and there are things that Kenny Pickett does that make you think, hey, these guys are NFL quarterbacks. But there's no slam dunk here. I mean, this is a far cry from the 2018 draft class, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. Ralph Ventre along with Ric Serritella talking NFL draft just 3 days away, destination Las Vegas. And, you know, it's going to be interesting with the quarterbacks. It'll be interesting to see if Baker Mayfield gets dealt come draft weekend, because I think he, despite the baggage and salary that comes with it, I do believe if you're looking to find a quarterback to lead you to a winning record, I think Baker Mayfield gives you the best chance. Now, with that being said, Kenny Pickett, I'll say, reminds me a lot of Mac Jones a year ago, where you had a lot of naysayers and critics talking about what Mac Jones can and can't do. He was the 5th quarterback taken. I would say that he outperformed every quarterback chosen ahead of him. And let's not forget Jalen Hurts. I remember a lot of people counting this young man out, and look at where he's at in his NFL career. So, can they be successful? Yes. Are teams clamoring to trade up? I don't believe so. And so let's talk about, we saw the shift in odds with the quarterbacks. We've also seen the shifts in odds. I thought I saw a report this morning, Ralph, where Trayvon Walker now may have overtaken Aiden Hutchinson in some sports books to be the odds-on favorite number 1 overall pick. This is fascinating to me because Trent Baalke's job status and security is on the line here. However, if you look at his track record back in San Francisco, he's got a thing. He's got a man crush on these athletic defensive linemen, and Trayvon Walker kind of fits the mold here.
Well, to me, the most surprising thing isn't Trayvon Walker, but it's what's happened to Kayvon Thibodeau. That's a guy who I think he was number 1 overall on your big board heading into draft season, and
still is number 1. And just for the record, I've got Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson are not even in my top 5 overall prospects for this year's draft. So again, just goes to show you how wild and wacky this year's draft class is.
So then what has happened to this Oregon defensive end who, I mean, to me, it looked like, if you want to talk about odds, he was the favorite maybe 2 months ago, probably even money to be the number 1 overall pick. And then he dropped off. Hutchinson, was like, I saw him at some books at like minus 150 or minus 200. And Hutchinson became that number 1 favorite. Now Walker's coming up, but really what happened to our guy from Oregon? I mean, if you can get him at 8-1, 9-1, like that just seems crazy for a guy who was even money 2 months ago. What is it, because he he left the comp, like he had a bad attitude at the combine, or like what? I don't get it. Like either the guy is a great defensive end prospect or he's not. Like I don't know how he could just fall off so quickly in so many people's eyes.
I think when you talk to the scouts, it's kind of like, Kayvon Thibodeau, you could say, is kind of like the millennial, face of the modern day athlete who grew up with social media, who grew up with everybody bending over backwards, coming out of middle school to high school, the chosen one, everybody just clamoring around this guy. Like he really grew up in this social media and it rubs people the wrong way in the interviews. And he gives teams reasons not to, like, if you're looking for reasons not to take them, like, okay, hey, I just ran one of the great 40-yard dashes of all time, the best, most impressive 10-yard split of any player out in Indy. But hey, you know what? I'm going to sit out the rest of the day. Pat myself on the back over here, and I'll see you guys at pro day. And NFL teams believe competitors like to compete. Well, and there was, and the reason given was because he was being asked to do defensive line end linebacker drills. The reason he gave Willie McGinnis, which is unacceptable, is like, hey, I just wanted to knock it out at pro day. Nonsense. Get her done. Don't bypass an opportunity to compete. And that's what Kayvon Thibodeau should have done. With that being said, I mean, I find it hard to believe if Hutchinson goes 1, I can't believe the Detroit Lions are going to bypass this talent. Houston, I mean, all signs now point to Ike Ekwonu, the NC State offensive tackle. He's the odds-on favorite, but I'll give Nick Cesario credit for this. He's really kept a tight noose on the leakage coming out of Houston. Things have changed. You know, we don't know what Houston is doing. There's a lot of wild cards in the top 5, but just, you know, wrapping up the edge rusher conversation, to me, it's Thibodeau all day. And then I like Walker slightly over Hutchinson just for the upside, I guess.
Yeah, if I'm a GM, I'm taking Thibodeau the first chance that I get. With that said, I'll play devil's advocate here, and I know it's a different position, but it was from the same conference out west in the Pac-12. But a guy like Josh Rosen in 2018, he kind of had that attitude, that perspective, that, you know, that what would you say, that millennial approach. And obviously it didn't serve him well, but as it turns out, I think his talent was probably a little overhyped. To that point, that's the whole stink from the combine. Like, everybody looked at Thibodeau's combine presser as negative because he kind of called out the Giants. I think he was kind of laughing at them in a way, because they're asking him like, hey, dude, how you going to react like when people start saying negative things about you on Twitter? And he's just like, bro, like, are you serious? You know? And I hey, listen, I respect Thibodeau for staying true to his colors. Every now and then, if you're talking about a generational talent, I think Kayvon Thibodeau, Derek Stingley, and maybe Ike because of the athletic upside. But Stingley and Thibodeau, to me, are two franchise cornerstone type of pieces. And let's remember Deion Sanders back in the day was a little bit unorthodox and rubbed the Giants the wrong way, because he said, hey, when are you picking 9? He's like, yeah, I ain't gonna be there. I ain't wasting my time with your nonsense. So we'll see how that shakes out. Now, with that being said, we can agree, I think it's going to be some combination of those 3 players within the first 2 picks. Do you think Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley could go as high as number 2 to the Lions? Is that a possibility? Because I could see Stingley being that number 2 pick. Well, if you talk to Sauce Gardner, he's going to go number 1, or he should go number 1. You have to love the confidence of that young man. But no, I don't know. I don't know how these teams are looking at it. I'm not on the inside, and what I've noticed over the years is when you try to guess what these teams are going to do, it's awfully hard, especially teams like the Jaguars or the Lions, because they don't really do what the quote-unquote conventional wisdom is, and they obviously make a lot of errors at the top of the draft because they're always picking at the top of the draft. So, the Jaguars took Blake Bortles up there. I think they made was Leonard Fournette a first-round pick by the Jaguars. They took the running back in the first round. I mean, I can't guess what these teams are going to do other than, I'd have to say it's more likely than not that it's probably not going to work out unless – they haven't bucked that trend in the last decade or so.
There's a reason why they're always picking at the top of the draft, much like the New York Jets and New York Giants. Both teams, again, 2 picks inside the first round, but you talk about unpredictability. The Jets need just about everything. Well, and at number 4, while they do need to surround themselves with the playmaker, I don't think they could pass up the best available player. And I think the Jets are sitting pretty, because I think out of Kayvon Thibodeau, Sauce Gardner, or even Evan Neal, it's a real possibility one of these guys is staring them straight in the face. How do the Jets bypass one of those talents?
I just want to get to a point real quick that Tom Goodhines brought up in the chat. Could it be that a team, there you go, are they throwing some smoke out there? Are the Giants doing this so that Thibodeau falls to them because they think he is a top of the draft player. And, you know, we talked about 2018, but if you remember, you know, in 2018, it came out on draft day that Josh Allen had racist, inappropriate tweets when he was like a 15-year-old kid. And all of a sudden, this came out on draft day. You know, like, was that the Bills doing that to make this kid fall down so they go draft their guy? I mean, do people – obviously, you had the Laramie Tunsil gas mask incident, but that seemed to be a personal vendetta, you know, somebody close to him that did that to him. But, you know, am I too cynical in saying that teams may play games like this and try to maybe knock a player so that he falls to them in the draft? I mean, if the Bills did that on Josh Allen, I mean, that certainly looks genius in hindsight.
There's a lot of smoke signals being sent this time of the year, and maybe it is the Jets, who I think, you know, I can't see if Thibodeau's on the board at 4, the potential to bypass him and let him go to the Giants and watch him become an all-pro talent for the next decade. I mean, it'd be hard. It would be another blunder in New York Jets draft history. However, all indications are the New York Giants have really zeroed in on Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. Some would argue he's the best pass block protector in this year's draft. I think that's a fascinating scenario where both if Ike Ekwonu goes number 3 to Houston, the Giants could have their choice of Charles Cross or Evan Neal. Suddenly, Neal, who at one point was considered the first overall pick in contention to be, he could now get bypassed by Charles Cross, and suddenly Evan Neal might slide down, and Carolina would be quick to pounce, I think, at number 6 if that scenario happens.
Well, you have the 3 good tackles there. The guy from NC State, then Cross from Mississippi State, Neal from Alabama. I mean, I guess it's really going to be, you know, the eye of the beholder, you know, what these particular draft evaluators see, who they see fits better. You know, I don't know how you separate those 3 guys. And there's another tackle out there, and I think this is a great way to segue to our special guest, Craig Haley. But there's another tackle out there from the FCS from Northern Iowa, Trevor Penning, whose stock has been on the rise. And is he someone who could land in the top 10? I've seen, I think Zach Patraw had a mock at one point where Penning goes maybe at number 7 or number 8. And, you know, I know they're different players, but I go back to Spencer Brown, who I watched closely this last year. I saw every snap this guy took, and he really performed well for the Buffalo Bills at right tackle. You know, and there was no quote unquote learning curve. He didn't have a problem with making that jump from the FCS to the NFL. And of course, Trevor Penning, also from Northern Iowa, he should have, you know, I don't see why he can't have a similar transition. And speaking of, I know Spencer Brown was somebody that I think you had rated in your top 15 last year.
13th overall.
Buffalo took him in the 3rd round, but he was somebody who was high. And could is Trevor Penning the next Spencer Brown in your eyes? Is he a top 15 guy?
Absolutely. I mean, I had the Bills tackle as my 13th overall prospect a year ago, and I actually like Trevor Penning more. And so that's the question that begs to be answered, because in that scenario, if Ike Ekwonu from NC State goes 3 to Houston and the Giants bypass Evan Neal and take Charles Cross at 5 out of Mississippi State, the Panthers aren't passing up Evan Neal out of Alabama at 6. So if you got 3 offensive tackles in the top 6 and Trevor Penning is that next best guy, well, my, oh my. When does that guy come off the board? And I heard the Vikings, who were kind of in that 13 range are looking to trade down if one of those teams do want to trade up for one of these offensive linemen who might be available. And one of those offensive linemen might be Zion Johnson out of Boston College, who will join us tomorrow at 10:05 a.m. Eastern. But today we shine the spotlight on the FCS, and who better to do that than Stats Performance own Craig Haley, another Jersey brethren of ours, joining Ralph Ventre and Ric Serritella here on the State of Football. Good morning, Craig. How are you today?
Good morning, Rick. It's great to join you and Ralph.
Oh, man, I always love having you on and chopping it up, FCS, because I believe there's probably nobody walking the planet with more overall knowledge of the FCS landscape than Craig Haley, because, I mean, you were just dialed in all year long, breaking stories. I love it, and I know we're going to get into your FCS Spotlight series, but before we do that, just tell the listeners at home, it looks like you guys have a new website, and I want to talk a little bit about that first.
Sure. Thanks, Rick. A year ago, I mean, I'm still, cover the FCS for Stats Perform, but a year ago, we created a new site called The Analyst, theanalyst.com, where sort of branches off and really analyzes various sports. And that's where we put our FCS coverage, on theanalyst.com. I mean, we have the top 25 national media poll, the legacy awards, the Walter Payton, Buck Buchanan, Jerry Rice, and Eddie Robinson. So that is the hub of our coverage on theanalyst.com.
And of course, Ralph Ventre, no stranger to the FCS level, spending almost 2 decades in the Northeast Conference. The Analyst, Ralph, if you haven't checked it out, man, this thing is full of information, full of fancy graphics too, which I really like. Comparisons, charts, the whole shebang. You see the FCS top 25 poll, which you're familiar with as well.
Yeah, I have to say that, obviously dating back to the days of the Sports Network, and then, of course, Stats Perform absorbed the coverage. But, this has been the go-to spot for FCS fans over the last, over all the days of the internet, essentially. Like I said, it evolved from the Sports Network to Stats Inc. to Stats Perform. And obviously now they have this great website, theanalyst.com. But they have been the premier organization when it comes to FCS coverage. And, to me, the key is those legacy awards. Just the namesake, Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, Buck Buchanan, Eddie Robinson. I mean, those names, to me, even in today's society, they carry a lot of weight. I know the prospects nowadays, this generation never saw those athletes compete, but they're names that will withstand the test of time, because as you know, they competed for HBCUs at the FCS level, and they are some of the all-time greats in professional football from the FCS.
Yeah, make sure you check it out, theanalyst.com. Go there now. Do it right. There's so much great information. You could spend countless hours diving in there. Craig Haley, the man who makes it all happen, joining us here on the State of Football with Ric Serritella, along with Ralph Ventre. And if you go to theanalyst.com, users can find your FCS Spotlight series, Craig, which I was privileged. You asked me to be a part of that panel, but so much great insight that I learned from some of the others, including Emery Hunt of Football Game Plan and CBS, Jordan Reed, who's now doing a great job over at ESPN. Before we get into some of the specifics, what were your kind of general takeaways from gathering all this feedback from these great football minds?
Sure. Well, first of all, it was a lot of fun. Series like that where you're picking the brains of the experts, yourself included, just a lot of fun. I mean, I think it really showed, and the answers to our questions indicated it's a strong year for offensive linemen, cornerbacks, wide receivers for the FCS level. And generally those are the go-to positions for, NFL teams looking to the FCS. So I think it's a great year for the FCS. It's sort of a bounce back year because the numbers have been down on NFL draft choices coming from the subdivision in recent years. The pandemic hurted it with the lack of pro days in 2020 and programs moving up to the FBS level, elite programs that always filled rosters in the NFL. That has hurt. But I think it's a bounce back year. I think this series indicated the enthusiasm towards the FCS this year. HBCUs are going to be back, with some draft selection. So I just think it was a fun series to do.
Yeah, the HBC Legacy Bowl was a big fun event that put these guys on the platform. And Ralph, we saw a record low, only six players from the FCS level selected in the 2021 NFL draft. The HBCUs got shut out entirely. I do believe that we are going to see a bounce back, like Craig said, both with the FCS, and I do think you'll see an HBCU or two selected, and we'll get into more of that, but just your thoughts there, Ralph. You're on mute.
Yeah, people may not realize, but HBCU alumni make up about 10% of the players enshrined in Canton. I think there are about 34, 35 HBCU alumni in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and there are about 340 total members. So, you heard the names before. So there are, with that said, it's kind of surreal that there hasn't been an HBCU player drafted in the past 2 years. Now, I know that will hopefully change this year, but I think it was great to see the birth of the HBCU Legacy Bowl. They also had the combine in connection with the Senior Bowl there in Mobile, Alabama, the HBCU combine. So that was great to showcase some of these guys. And of course, Craig probably knows it as well as anybody. The energy there is at that level now and in the FCS with Deion Sanders at Jackson State and Eddie George at Tennessee State. And it's kind of a little bit of a rebirth of those HBCU programs that have such a rich history. But with that said, getting back to the FCS level, and of course the SWAC and MEAC, a number of those HBCUs compete at the FCS level. I know there are only, I think, 5 picks last year, 6 picks the year before from the FCS. But if you go back to like 2018, you have, or 2017 and 2018, I think there were 18 or 19 players selected. Of course, Cooper Kupp was in that mix. He was the AP Offensive Player of the Year. He was the Super Bowl MVP. So it's not like there are going to be tons of FCS players, but you better keep your eye on the football championship subdivision because there are going to be some gems that are uncovered. And, I think the Rams are pretty happy with that. What was that, a late second round pick on Cooper Kupp or an early third round pick?
Third round, yes.
Cooper Kupp.
Third round, 69th pick overall in 2017. And they took one of his teammates, Samson Ebukam, in the 4th round. So the Rams really hit it big that year.
Yeah, and the Rams notoriously known for, skipping out on the combine and the pro day circuit and doing a lot of film study. And so let's go back to that dilemma because you have another kind of off the wall wide receiver in terms of draft grades, Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, Craig. I mean, some people think he could sneak into the back end of the 1st round. Other people are calling him a day 3 prospect. What did you gather from your feedback? What's your personal outtake on where Christian Watson lands in the draft?
Great question. I think Christian at the worst, he's a 2nd round pick. I think he solidified himself at the Senior Bowl. I think the draft buildup between the pro days, the all-star games, the work, the visits with teams. I think that's really lifted the FCS level this year. I think a lot of them did well with earning awards at the All-Star games. And Christian Watson just had a great week at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. Impressed people all around. I mean, he has a nice burst to him. Once he gets to the second level, great hands. He got that 6'4" size that you're looking for. So I think he's a second rounder at worst. I have him behind Trevor Penning, as the second best FCS prospect. Some people are looking at Troy Anderson, the linebacker at Montana State. I just think Christian Watson has really set himself apart coming from a championship program.
I would tend to agree there. We're talking to Craig Haley from theanalyst.com. You can go on and get all of his FCS Spotlight series. Again, it included breakdowns from myself, Emery Hunt from Football Game Plan, CBS Sports, and Jordan Reed over at ESPN. A lot of great insight, a lot of hot takes. And we were talking about HBCU. And isn't it funny? I was flipping around going to find the USFL game yesterday, and don't you know, say what you want about Dion gets it done. There's the Jackson State spring game streaming on ESPN Plus. So there you go. If you don't think they're getting the spotlight they deserve now, but give us a couple of those names based on your panel of experts there over on the analyst.com, Craig. Some of these HBCU prospects who have a chance to hear their name called in a couple days here.
Sure, Rick. And you mentioned Jackson State. Jackson State's actually had the most selections in the NFL draft since the Division I split in 78. So starting with the 1979 draft, Jackson State has had 41 draft picks. So Dion has some, reason to be upset when HBCUs aren't represented in the draft. I think this year, probably the leading one would be Marquise Bell, a safety down at Florida A&M. Maybe a year from now, Isaiah Land is another one to look for from that defense that Florida and A&M had last year. He's just a hard hitter. He started, at the FBS level at Maryland, was, 4 or 5, star kind of recruit, did transfer down. I think Marquise Bell is, your first one. And then there was a bunch. The Kobe Durant, the cornerback at South Carolina State, which has always done well in their draft. Jatari Carter, a lineman at Southern, he played down at the Senior Bowl. There's a bunch out there. James Houston is the strong one from Jackson State and Dion's program. So there's definitely 4 or 5 out there, and even the Division II level for HBCUs this year has some prospects that are, and probably ones that are definitely going to be drafted. So it's a great year for the HBCU to bounce back. Akil Glass is a big name to watch, the wide receiver at Alabama A&M. He's probably going to be picked up after the draft as a top kind of free agent, priority free agent. But I just think you can look to many. And I'd probably say, as I mentioned, Marquise Bell of Florida A&M would be the first FCS player off the board from an HBCU. Josh Williams of Fayetteville State is in the mix as well, but he's a Division II player.
Yeah, and we had both Akil Glass and Marquise Bell out at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, really boosting their stocks. And it was exciting. Bell is just an incredible blend of size, speed, athleticism. Wow. He can play probably any position in the defensive backfield. And Akil Glass, we all know, I've been a big believer and a big time fan because all this guy does is produce in big time spots. And he had himself a day out at that NFLPA Collegiate Bowl game. Craig, I know you're a busy man. We appreciate the time here so much. Tell the listening audience at home again what else they can find in your FCS Spotlight series and some of the other draft coverage you have leading up to the 2022 NFL Draft.
Sure, and today we published a 10-question quiz on the FCS in the draft since the Division I split. That's new as of today.
Oh, wait a second. Samantha, try to dig that up at the end of the show. We'll give Ralph a quiz. We'll put him on the spot and see how many he gets right. Thanks for that tidbit, Craig.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. You spotlighted here the last 10 drafts. I analyzed the best picks. That was a lot of fun. That was published last Friday. I'm looking at some of the different draft evaluations, including NFL Draft Bible, and compiling them into an average draft ranking for FCS prospects. That'll be out this week. So a lot of coverage. It's theanalyst.com. On Twitter, we're FCS_stats. At Craig Haley, my personal Twitter account. So we'll have draft coverage all week. I mean, we love to look at the historical stuff as well with the FCS. So a lot of fun, and appreciate being on your show, and just I love listening to your knowledge, football on all levels.
Likewise, Craig. I'm looking forward to all the coverage here. I'm a big fan of the historical stuff as well. So make sure you check it out. There it is. If you're watching at home, the analyst, FCS senior editor Craig Haley, checking in on the state of football. Thanks so much, Craig. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Sounds great. Thank you, fellas.
All right, there you have it. Nobody covers the FCS as well as Craig Haley, a good friend of the show, someone I know for quite some time as well, Ralph.
Yeah, I worked with Craig for, I want to say it's about 10 or 12 years, and really does a great job as the primary administrator for the Stats Perform National Top 25 poll, and of course those legacy awards, which go to the top players from the football championship subdivision on an annual basis. I think the Peyton Award is about 35 years old. Of course, former winners of the Peyton Award are Jimmy Garoppolo, Tony Romo. Here's one from Philly, Brian Finneran, the old Villanova receiver.
Good one.
The late Steve McNair, of course, is a former Walter Payton Award winner. And Craig is the primary administrator for that program, does a great job, and it's always great to chop it up with him. Of course, I'm honored to be one of those top 25 and legacy award voters. But with that said, I got to go back to Christian Watson, because I'm with Craig 100%. I don't see how you can let this guy go outside of the top 50. Craig was talking about Watson's work at the Senior Bowl. Craig is talking about Watson's work at the Senior Bowl. Well, what about his combine? Watson did a great job at the combine. I know he was top 5 at the wide receiver position in the 40, and he had really a great athletic score there. And this is a receiver who put the numbers on paper at the combine, but he's also spent the last 4 years putting up the production in college. I don't understand what the knock is on this guy. Oh, he played against a lower level of competition. All right, well, he dominated that level. If you watch some of the film on this guy, he's 5 yards beyond the D-back on a post route. Like, what more do you want this kid to do? Oh, he didn't have a 1,000-yard season. All right, well, he had a 900-yard season, and he averaged like 20 yards per catch. Okay, and he's on a team that's winning the national championship every year, and he's on a team that doesn't need to throw the ball. They're always ahead. They average like 6 yards, 6.5 yards per rush. I mean, the Bison offense is a rushing power. So this guy's not going to put up gaudy numbers, but if you look closely, the numbers are gaudy. Like, it's 20 yards of reception. It's 9 touchdowns for a national championship team. I don't know what more do you want him to do? He went up against the FBS guys at the combine and did the same numbers as they did, if not better. Maybe I don't understand draft evaluation. Maybe Christian Watson will be a bust. But if you're looking at this stuff, objectively, I don't know how he's not a top 50 pick. Like, what's the knock on this guy other than he played at the FCS level, but he dominated there? Just watch. You know, you don't have to catch the ball every down to be dominant. You know, you can watch the guy when he's not getting the ball, and he still can be winning every rep, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what you look for from a small school prospect, Christian Watson out of North Dakota State checks off all the boxes. He's a national champion. He has production through the roof. He's got prototype size. He's got above top tier speed. That's for sure. What more can I say? Draft a man, make it happen. Ric Serritella, Ralph Ventre, breaking it down here on the State of Football. Got a question coming in from the chat room. Hey, you guys got questions? We got answers. We want to make this show more interactive. So please, I see all my chat room peeps, Tommy Goodhines, the legendary Joe Everett, who never leaves a stone unturned. The question coming in from Roxana Charlie Ashley Bella. What a beautiful name. Never too many syllables in the Serritella household. Wants to know, what should my Dallas Cowboys do with the 24th overall pick in the first round after paying Dak and Zeke all that money? Well, as a result, Ralph, as you know, they had to part ways with Amari Cooper. They still do have CeeDee Lamb. They also paid Michael Gallup. With that being said, if you want to replace some of that firepower or ammunition at 24, hey, Jerry Jones went to the University of Arkansas. Treylon Burks out of Arkansas could be in play there for the Cowboys, I would believe, has to be in consideration. They still have not shored up that defensive end position. So does a guy like George Karlaftis slide down to the Cowboys? Do they trade up, which Jerry Jones did mention, I think, on Sirius XM radio, that the Cowboys would be willing to trade up if the price was right. Maybe Jermaine Johnson, the Florida State defensive end, is within striking distance, and the Cowboys maybe can get up and land a player of that caliber. I would imagine also, hey, Devin Lloyd at the linebacker position. Man, if you plug that guy in next to a Micah Parsons, what a duo at linebacker you would have there. So I would say all those positions in play for the Dallas Cowboys. And hey, that offensive line has not been as sturdy as it used to be. We got somebody joining the show tomorrow, Ralph, and Zion Johnson, who could play all three interior positions if the Cowboys want to look to solidify that offensive line. Hey, this team, a lot of people think, are built to win right now, but when you actually break it down, they have quite a few needs to address.
Yeah, and Jerry Jones is always somebody who's going to go for it, whatever that may mean. But I can see the Cowboys trading up and going after a player that they particularly covet. And the word is now that it may not be as costly to trade up this year in the first round. So I definitely wouldn't put that out of play for the Cowboys. As far as the Cowboys go, you mentioned their needs right there. Why don't they take Christian Watson? A young receiver on a rookie contract. But certainly, hey, they did pretty good for themselves last year in the first round with Micah Parsons, and there was someone, I think they
got the best player in the draft.
Yeah. But there were questions about him, right? Could this be the same thing as a Thibodeau, right? There are questions about this guy.
Believe me, the Giants fans have not let me forget that one.
Exactly. How many teams, the Giants, one of them, would have loved to have Micah Parsons right now?
No doubt. Ric Serritella, Ralph Ventre breaking it down here from the New Jersey recording studios on the great island of the Jersey Shore, broadcasting live from Lavalette, New Jersey, around the universe. It's the State of Football. You're home for real football talk in the mornings, and we'll be live each and every morning. So buckle up. I mentioned Zion Johnson tomorrow. We'll have an O-line spectacular extravaganza bonanza. The legendary Bob Wiley, offensive line coach, along with Keith Grabowski from CoachTube.com. We're waiting to hear back from Brian Baldinger. What are you doing tomorrow? I know where I'll be. Wednesday, Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. Is it Coastal or ECU? I keep getting confused. TJ Hammond from Arkansas. Too many players rolling through the mental Rolodex. Bobby Greco will be joining us from the NFL Draft Bible Familia. We're excited to pop him on. I'm sure since it's Wednesday, I haven't reached out to her yet, but we'll be hopefully having Amanda Ruler on. Check in with her. And then on Thursday, what a lineup in store for you on the NFL Draft morning. We'll have NFLPA Collegiate Bowl Executive Director Dane Vandernat, along with Inside the League CEO Neil Stratton. We'll have the NFL Draft Bible Ninja, Bo Marchant, who joined us last week. And we'll also hear from Ed Kratz, the Philadelphia Eagles insider, here on the Fan Nation Network, part of Sports Illustrated. Football Friday will be back. It'll be a full NFL Draft Bible Familia show once we hit the draft days on Friday and Saturday. We'll have Zach Petraw, we'll have Lorenz Lineweber, we'll have all kinds of special guests rolling throughout the week. And make sure you subscribe, all access, over at the NFLDraftBible.com. Unlock the magic and gain access to 600 plus scouting reports for 2022, 2023. We got 2024, guys. We can't stop. We won't stop. Celebrating 20 years, by the way, of independent scouting analysis, the often imitated, never duplicated NFL Draft Bible coming at you. Oh, baby. Just 3 days away from that 2022 NFL Draft. Two quick hits. We're going to go to a commercial break in just a second. Two quick shout-outs I want to give. The first one, I saw a wonderfully penned note written, I'm assuming, by Dan Shanka's wife, Peggy, I believe, for the Our Lads draft guide. Of course, Dan Shanka keeping it going. I think his 41st Our Lads draft publication. He suffered a series of strokes last year, has been in bad health, wasn't able to contribute to the publication, but they did get one out with the Our Lads scouting staff. So shout out to those guys over there. Stay strong, Dan. Can't stop, won't stop. You know the mentality. And then RIP to the Mad Bomber, Ralph, Darryl LaMonica, passing away this week. And when you talk about one of the all-time greats at the quarterback position, nobody throws a better deep ball than the Mad Bomber.
Yeah, RIP, former Buffalo Bill, and of course, Oakland Raider. He was with the Bills when they won 2 AFL championships in 64 and 65. And then I think it was in 67, he landed with the Raiders, played there for 7 or 8 seasons with Tom Flores. And he's a legend, no doubt. So Darryl LaMonica, rest in peace. Former Buffalo Bill quarterback, Oakland Raider quarterback, legend.
Ric Serritella, Ralph Ventre on the State of Football. We'll be back right after this.
I'm J.R. Davis. I'm the Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Northwest Georgia. We serve about 3,000 kids in Northwest Georgia. And I just wanted to say thank you to the NFL Draft Bible for showcasing our organization and the thousands of kids we serve and our STEAM Academy. And we are hoping to have a long-standing partnership with you and get a lot of our kids involved in this analytics, data analytics, and pursue a successful future in their career.
How has FitGamer changed and impacted Cloud9? I mean, honestly,
Cloud9, North America's best international team, are headed back to Worlds.
The difference between the teams that actually win or lose are the teams that are going to actually have the stamina and still have like a sharp mind through that event. prior to having Fit Gamers exercise routines that we've been doing, my players around game 5 would get tired and lose. What's happened with the training that we've been doing, we are now, when we get to this game 5 situations, we're the team on stage that has energy, we're the team on stage actually is sharp, and we're the team that's raising the trophies. The Fit Gamer app helps you not only track on your everyday workouts, but we travel a lot. So while we're traveling, we can kind of pinpoint how our players are doing, how our managers are doing. They can report what their sleep is like, they can report the nutrition, and it gives us the ability to catch patterns that are not good early and address them and fix them. And our training routines, training up along both, has resulted in us lifting trophies at the end of the day. And for me, that's what actually matters.
You can't become an agent without passing the exam. We can help. We introduced our first practice test in 2012. Since then, we've added a study guide and a second exam, and we've helped hundreds pass a test that 55% fail. Our clients succeed at a rate 25% higher than others. For the cost of a plane ticket, you can buy our guide and take both our exams multiple times. Check us out.
The 2022 winner of the C.O. Bricado Memorial Award for Lifetime Service to NFL Scouting once snapped the ball to legendary quarterback Joe Montana. And for most people, that would be a career highlight. Instead, our winner spent several years in coaching and administration, even serving as the GM of the Arena League's Pittsburgh Gladiators, before becoming a Blesto scout for the Steelers in 1995. In the nearly 3 decades since, he's helped the team to Super Bowl wins in 2006 and 2009, and has helped assemble teams for legendary head coaches Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin. Only 10 times have the Steelers missed the playoffs during his tenure. And players the Steelers have drafted or signed include Alan Faneca, Ben Roethlisberger, James Harrison, Troy Polamalu, Marquise Pouncey, Le'Veon Bell, T.J. Watt, Juju Smith-Schuster, and even Mark Bruner, who is himself a Steeler scout today. The third winner of the C.O. Bricado Memorial Award for Lifetime Service to NFL Scouting was an easy selection. It's Steelers college scout Mark Gorshak.
Here, you and me, along with Ralph Ventre. Samantha, are we back? Can you guys hear me? Is Ralph here with us? We're breaking it down. We got the blade sharpened. We've been previewing the 2022 NFL draft, which is now 3 days away. If you were listening or watching our sponsors and paid programming, we have the esports website coming to Sports Illustrated soon. Make sure you keep it locked to si.com for that. Excited to be a part of that project, as well as UConn Illustrated. If you haven't checked that out, over at si.com/college/UConn. It's our sister site with head coach Jim Mora. In fact, we just did a podcast yesterday with our friend Matt over at UConn Country, breaking down all the spring ball coverage for those UConn Huskies, diving into some of the NFL draft prospects for Travis Jones, Ryan Van Denmark, guys like Omar Fort and Jay Rose, who could be hot commodities after the draft as an undrafted free agent. And our next guest, Ralph, is somebody who I think also fits into that category, because you and I made the long journey to the Monmouth Pro Day last month, and we both came away saying, hey, Anthony Budd, who is this kid jumping through the gymnasium, a 4-year starter, just 100 tackle seasons, multiple playing back there in the secondary, and somebody who I came away with very impressed both by his on the field performance and then off the field demeanor. There he is, our super producer Samantha, popping him on already. Good morning, Anthony. How are you today?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. How you guys doing?
We're doing awesome, man. It's been a Jersey strong kind of day. Assuming you're checking in from Jersey this morning, I see the Monmouth hoodie there, Anthony, and incredible pro day workout. We'll pull up the numbers in just a second. But what has been the process since then, and have you gotten any feedback in terms of any NFL interest?
Actually, about a couple weeks after that, I went to the Giants local day. I did that. Did pretty well. A couple days ago, I actually received a call from the Miami Dolphins. Talk went well. They asked for my agent and everything. Wanted to know like basic information about me, stuff like that. But that's all for right now.
Yeah, when we spoke to Ralph and myself after the pro day workout, Ralph, we both concluded Anthony was the big winner from the day. I'm going to pop up his pro day numbers here so we can inform the listening audience and the scouts at home who could be tuned in. But what were your takeaways from Anthony's pro day workout, and what do you want to hit him with here on the panel?
Well, first of all, I know about him just from following the FCS because he was a 3-time All Big South selection. But I don't think too many people knew enough about Anthony. And then once he popped those numbers at Pro Day, it was like, hey, you guys better take notice of this safety here at the Jersey Shore, because those numbers put him right in the mix with a lot of draft prospects from the FBS level. So, I mean, those are numbers that some Power 5 prospects are doing. So, with that said, hopefully there are some teams that are catching on to this guy. Hey, this may be a gem. We could bring him into rookie camp and see what he's made of. But no, I don't understand why there isn't more hype about Anthony Budd is the bottom line. But I guess, we can hear from the man himself. And Anthony, what is it do you think that you do best on the field? And before even addressing that specifically, what can you bring an NFL team? Make your pitch. Let them know. Why do they need to give Anthony Budd a call?
I think my versatility takes me a long way. I feel like I can help a team out just about as many positions I can play on the field, defensively, special teams wise, anything. My hard work, I'm going to outwork anybody next to me. It doesn't matter who it is. And just my edge for the game. Like, I love to play the game, so I'm going to give it everything I got every time I'm out there on the field. So I feel like any team out there should take a shot on me, take a chance on me.
Now,
talking to Anthony. Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, now at Monmouth, you had a great career. You won Big South championships, and but the one thing looking back on that career is you got to show your versatility on the field, right? You played outside corner. I think you were aligned in the slot at times, and then of course you were at safety as well. How was that, getting that experience at 3 different positions while you were at Monmouth?
It was a great experience just because it shows that I'm not like one-dimensional. I can play all over the field. You can move me in the box. You can break me down in the box. I can be good in the run game. Pass game, I played the middle third my last 2 seasons. I did pretty well back there. In my first year, I played at corner, and I did pretty well there. So, I mean, it just shows my versatility, what I can bring to a team, and I'm not stuck in one area, you know what I'm saying? So,
as evidenced by 223 career tackles, we're talking to Monmouth standout safety Anthony Budd here on the State of Football, and we've been talking up the numbers. I just had them here in front of me. Let me get them back up in front of me. Samantha was so kind to flash them up on the screen. 444 and 450 on my watch in the 40-yard dash. 5'11", 199 pounds. They couldn't give you the extra pound there, Anthony. Come on now. What are you weighing these days?
Right now, I'm weighing about 204. When I went to the local day for the Giants, I was 204. So I wanted the extra pound at pro day, but it's on me now.
Okay, and so take us through the Giants local pro day. Take us through that experience. What was that like for you?
It was a pretty good experience. The whole coaching staff was there. We had a team meeting. We had a little lunch when we first got there. Went through height and weight weigh-ins, all that. We had lunch, and then we went to a team meeting. They showed us a intro video, like this is what the Giants is all about. Introduced coaching staff to us, and then basically after that, we just warmed up and got into our workout. It was about a 30-minute workout for each position. We had offense, defense specialists. Of course, the defense went last, so we playing a waiting game for a little bit. Defense had a little bit of a wait, but other than that, everything went well.
Yeah, it went well, just like your pro day. Some more of those numbers. Anthony Budd, Monmouth safety. For those of you who don't know, you should know. 5'11". You just heard him say 204 pounds, 73 and 4/8 inch wingspan, timed 444, 450 on my watch. 20 bench press reps, which is great for a safety. I'd love to see how many safeties actually even participated in that out in Indianapolis. And then, oh, by the way, just for good measure, 34.5-inch vert, 10'3" broad, 4.56 short shuttle, 7.15 L drill. Those are very solid numbers across the board there, Anthony. However, it seemed like at the pro day you felt like you expected more out of yourself. What was the training process like for you? Where were you training? Were you happy with those results? Did anything surprise you at the pro day?
I was pretty happy with my results. I was actually training at ESA Sports down in Tinton Falls, right near my school. A guy named Val was training me, so he did a pretty good job with us. But I was a little upset with my numbers. I was expecting low 4.4. When I was training, I was getting low 4.4. So when I got the 4.4, 4.5, I was a little mad about that. But I mean, I'll deal with that. And then my broad actually surprised me. I was getting like a 9.4, 9.5 when I was training. I guess the adrenaline pumped into me, and I jumped 10.3. So I mean, hey, the number's there now. So, but
well, hey, Ralph,
yeah.
You mentioned it earlier. Some of the Power 5 safeties and top prospects. Kyle Hamilton would be very happy with numbers like that.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, and Kyle Hamilton's a guy that you hear, oh, he could be the best player in the draft, or he should, are people only talking about Kyle Hamilton because he went to Notre Dame? Well, the kid at Monmouth, he puts his pants on one leg at a time too. I mean, this guy, hey, Miles Austin, right? I mean, I don't want to go too back far in time. I mean, Anthony was probably in elementary school, but Miles Austin is a 2-time Pro Bowler coming out of Monmouth. And he's a guy that had to make the pros as a special teamer. He wasn't drafted as a wide receiver. Heck, he wasn't drafted. The Cowboys took a flyer on him. He starts returning kicks. He's averaging like 25 yards a kick return. He's doing good things in practice. He starts lining up at receiver, and the guy becomes Tony Romo's top target and makes it to 2 Pro Bowls. So I obviously I don't want to set these great expectations for Anthony and put any pressure on him, but the point being is, there's some merit in following these small school prospects. We're not just doing this as a favor for the people at Monmouth. We're doing this because Anthony Budd should be on an NFL team's radar because that's what the numbers say.
Oh, no doubt about it. Ric Serritella, Ralph Ventre here with Anthony Budd, the Monmouth standout, 4-year starter on the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. Do you carry that chip with you, Anthony? Do you hear that chatter, that small school label? Does that bother you at all?
It doesn't really bother me because I just know what I can do and what I'm capable of. No matter what level I play on, I'm gonna be myself. So I mean, of course, the big school guys are gonna get more attention brought to their name, but I mean, as a small school guy, I'm just gonna keep doing me, and I'm gonna keep putting the numbers up whenever I get a chance.
Well, and for all the scouts that were at your pro day, you weren't officially signed with representation at the time, so then they might not be aware you're now signed with Michael Langley for agent representation. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you between now and the draft time, they can. Last one for me, take me through the agent process and what Michael is going to be helping you out with here.
Basically, he's going to be helping me with like contract negotiations, stuff like that, trying to broadcast me out, put me out to teams, make sure teams know who I am, what I stand for, what I bring to the table, stuff like that. So just bringing the best interest in me and for other teams too.
No, he's a great rep to have in your corner. He's a good friend of the show. We had him on last year. We hope to have him on again. And his Rolodex is as deep as any agent out there in the industry. So we're happy about that. Final parting shot for the fans, the NFL teams, anyone who's watching, Anthony. Hopefully we can have you on after the show, but we're looking forward to seeing where you land. You mentioned the local day with the Giants. Maybe you won't have to travel too far. We shall see. Because once you start getting away from Jersey and New York, the food ain't as good. But we'll take it in exchange for a place to play in the National Football League. But give everybody at home one last hit here before we let you go.
For any team out there, man, you're getting a hard worker. You're getting a guy who has natural IQ for the game, loves the game. You're getting a ball hawk. You're getting a guy who loves the tackle. So, I mean, I feel like I got everything in the whole package.
All right, there you have it. He is Anthony Budd on the NFL radar. Ric Serritella, Ralph Ventre here on the State of Football. Thank you so much, Anthony. We'll check in after the draft. All right, my man?
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me. Have a good one.
All right, you got it. Samantha, if you can cue up a little quick commercial break or countdown, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Chattanooga offensive lineman Cole Strange, who's trending up and could potentially be a top 100 pick in this year's upcoming 2022 NFL draft. We'll be back with Cole right after this.
You can't become an agent without passing the exam. We can help. We introduced our first practice test in 2012. Since then, we've added a study guide and a second exam, and we've helped hundreds pass a test that 55% fail. Our clients succeed at a rate 25% higher than others. For the cost of a plane ticket, you can buy our guide and take both our exams multiple times. Check us out.
Hey, we're back at it again. RIC in the place to be, Ric Serritella, like it is when it comes to the NFL draft and everything football. We are going to welcome in our next guest. He is Cole Strange out of Chattanooga, joining us here on the State of Football. Good morning, Cole. Thanks for taking the time to join us. You're with Ralph Ventre, Ric Serritella. How are we doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I appreciate y'all for having me on. How are y'all doing?
Man, we're doing outstanding. It's exciting times here at the NFL Draft Bible, celebrating our 20th year anniversary of independent scouting analysis. And our big board tells me, Cole, you are trending upwards, man, coming off of that strong Senior Bowl performance. Let's start right down in Mobile and take away that week-long experience. You did very well for yourself. What was the feedback or takeaways that you got out of it?
Yeah, I think the Senior Bowl went really well for me. And I think that probably the biggest thing for me, and it's probably the same for any guy who comes from like an FCS school or, D2 or anything like that, is that, all the guys that went to the Senior Bowl are considered the best of the best. Most of them are from, bigger conferences and whatnot. Our week of practicing. probably did go against competition. Probably wouldn't compete as well against the top tier guys. And also, I think playing at center was a big plus for me too, because I'd done that a little bit in college, but not much.
And how comfortable did that come to you? Because I know a lot of times there could be, some footwork, getting that timing down right. Even if the quarterback wants to take a snap under center, is that something like you're comfortable transitioning to the next level if an NFL team asks you to do that?
Yes, sir. I actually felt really comfortable at center. Yeah, honestly, I'd played a couple games in 2019. At the very end of the season, we had a bunch of injuries and whatnot. But ever since then, I had continued to work on my snapping, just to be able to snap. And when I got to the Senior Bowl, honestly, I didn't have too much trouble. With the transition, the competition was good. The guys were difficult, but I don't know. I felt really good at center, to be honest with you.
Very interesting stuff here from Cole Strange, Chattanooga offensive lineman, along with Ralph Ventre, Ric Serritella. And Ralph, as you know, the more you can do, the more valuable you are. And Cole being able to play all three interior positions is definitely going to lend a lot of value to his draft stock.
Well, that's the first thing that really stuck out to me when I took a look at Cole's resume. And you said all three interior positions, but you're selling this guy a little short here, Rick. He played a couple games at tackle as well for UTC. So, I mean, he's played every position on the line. And if I'm an NFL GM, I have to love that sort of versatility from someone who's got the size that Cole has. And Cole, I got a bone to pick with you for a second here because, you were talking about being at the Combine or the Senior Bowl with some of the bigger players from bigger name schools. Well, Chattanooga's not so bad itself. I mean, they have a rich history there. Chattanooga used to host the FCS championship game for a number of years. And I know you've had to meet T.O. at some point in your career, right? I mean, one of the GOATs is from Chattanooga.
Yes, sir. No, don't get me wrong for a single second. I'm not the one saying that the question of competition is a real thing. I'm just saying in the eyes of GMs, head coaches, and people who do draft boards and, decide who they're going to pick, those people are the ones saying all that stuff. I don't really buy into that. Honestly, I believe that there's talent at every single level. So trust me, you don't have to pick a bone with me. I'm just saying for the people who watch and make the decisions on draft day.
Have you met Terrell Owens at all? Has he come around the program in recent years?
Yeah. He's been, I think, a couple times actually. He normally will come in on like our homecoming game, and he'll come in the day before, and at our like pregame dinner on like the Friday, he'll come in there and talk to us for a second, and then just kind of eat. Normally he'll eat with the coaches and whatnot, but he'll like stand up and talk to the team for a little bit. And then also, what was it, in 2018? He had his Hall of Fame induction speech at Chattanooga, and the whole team went to that.
Pretty cool to have him as an alumnus, and I'm sure you could definitely get some great perspective and some great words of wisdom from someone like that who quite frankly dominated at the NFL level, and he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And it just goes to show you that it doesn't matter that he was only from Chattanooga. So I hope that NFL GMs have that kind of viewpoint and realize that, and I think most of them do, that it doesn't matter what the name on this guy's jersey is said in college. It's does he have NFL ability? Can he perform at the NFL level? I don't care whether he played for Chattanooga or Bowie State or Fayetteville State or Bethune-Cookman or wherever. Pick your school. Like, can this guy play at the NFL level? And hopefully that's the way GMs will look at you. And I think they'll see somebody that can do that. And, just to me, the versatility, of course, they'll probably find a position for you that best suits your size and your physical ability, whether that's guard, whether that's center. But the fact is, guys get hurt in the NFL, and there are times where they need people to play tackle in a pinch, or they need to move somebody from guard to center. And to have someone like that on their roster who is capable and available to move around, to me, that's invaluable. And I think that adds a lot to your draft stock. I look at a guy like Eric Wood, who's now retired, but he came out of Louisville and he was drafted as a guard. He starts his career at guard. There's an injury at center. He moves to center and then winds up playing 8 years as an NFL center and makes it to the Pro Bowl. So I'm sure that you're open to playing wherever they need you, right? Wherever you don't care if it's guard, center, tackle, or whatever it is to get onto an NFL roster, I'm sure, Cole.
Absolutely not. I've told several coaches I can catch the ball pretty well too. So yeah, no, I don't care at all. I mean, I really don't. That's kind of what happened when I got into college. In high school, I played defense. I played linebacker, and then my senior year, I got a little bit bigger. I gained some weight, and they moved me to defensive end. And then when I got to college, they wanted to put me at O-line, and I just like, okay, that's where they saw my potential as. That's where they saw me being the best at. So I was, whatever it takes to get on the field. I really, really do not care.
I like my offensive linemen to bring a little bit of that defensive mentality, and that's an interesting kind of landing spot to start off in the evolution of linebacker to defensive end to offensive line. So, Cole, what were you weighing coming out of high school? Were you recruited to be a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman?
Out of high school, I weighed I was like 245, 250.
Wow.
That lower. And at Chattanooga, they recruited me as whatever I wanted to be. Whenever I was in high school, they said I could play offensive line, defensive line, tight end if I wanted to, because my senior year I played defensive end and tight end. And whenever I got there, it was just like I was just slated to be an offensive lineman. You know what I mean? Like they were sizing me up for knee braces on day one, so it's pretty obvious what they want me to be. You know what I mean? But
so how about the weight increase then? If you came in at like 250, I know you weighed in at 305 or somewhere around there at the combine. Was that a gradual progression? Was that a result of diet and watching the calorie intake? How did you kind of get to 307, or what are you weighing these days, by the way?
I was 308 this morning, and it was very gradual. It wasn't like an overnight, from 250 to 295, just eating pizza and drinking beer. That did not really, that's not how it went at all, which I think is for the best, because if I just chugged beer, I think it'd go right into my stomach. For the most part, it was like a 10 to 15 pound progression per year. So my redshirt freshman year, I came in, that was actually the year I started playing, which is laughable because I was scrawny, and I had started playing. I was 265 at guard in there, and it's kind of funny because all these pictures that I've seen people post, it's me when I'm a sophomore and my arms look like toothpicks. And it's like, these people just want to continue using this picture. I don't know why, but everyone else.
We got to get the Chattanooga photography team to get some more pictures circulating there.
Oh
Cole.
My gosh. I know they love, I'm telling you, I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's Dom, if he can hear this, he's one of the GAs, or who it is that's like trying to get me, but they pick the least flattering pictures. One of them was like me standing there after a play and my jersey is like just an inch above my belly button and my stomach. You know what I mean? It's like my knees are straight. It's like, can you not? There's a picture I've seen that's pretty good of me. Just use that same one. But no, it's all good. But yeah, it was like a 10 to 15 pound progression per year. And this past year, I played at.
There we go. There's a good picture. There we go. Cool.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh man,
you won't have to search long to find the one with the belly button hanging out.
Cole Strange along with Ric Serritella, Ralph Ventre here. Sorry guys, I did want to get to the fact that your combine numbers were really well at 307 or 308, 6'4", 6'4" and 7/8 inches, so essentially 6'5". You ran a 5:02.40, which is pretty impressive. 31 bench press reps, and then a 28-inch vertical and a 10-foot broad jump. Those are solid numbers. That's what you call size, speed, explosion, athleticism. Cole, were you happy with the results, and where did you train, by the way?
I was happy, as a matter of fact. I trained down in Pensacola at this place called Exos. Yeah, I was happy. Honestly, I wish I could have ran below a 5. If I could have gotten the 4 in the 4s in the 40, that would have been sweet. And obviously, I want my vertical to be higher. But yeah, I think it's good. And to tell you the truth, I'm not too worried. Oh, shit, a wasp just flew in here.
That's all right. We swat him. That's what we got the arm punch for, man. Jab that wasp.
Yeah. But I was pretty satisfied with it. I'm not too worried about the 40 time though, because I think it is a good time, but I'm very confident in my speed and whenever it comes to like actual football, you know what I mean? Whenever we would race, because we'd have like, we'd get down and we'd time our 40s and, we would time them, but I never ran as fast as whenever we would get on the line, all of us together and race. And I think it's just like, I think a lot of people are like that, to be honest with you, is like a competitive thing. It's like whenever you're getting down for the 40 and you're trying to make sure your start's good and you're like, your knee drive is right and you're not, cycling at the very beginning. There's all this technique that's involved and you're trying to do it correctly. But whenever it's racing or whenever you're like next to someone and you're racing and you're trying to get to a line before anyone else, I don't know if your technique just naturally kicks in or if you just kick it into another gear, but I don't know. I was always faster doing that, I think, than I was actually running a 40. And that's what football is, is competing. I don't think you ever actually get down and race, but it's competitive. No one's like, there's never going to be a play where you're taking a rep and you're just, being measured. You know what I mean? You're going against somebody.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong too. With Lyman, isn't it more what they do in those first 10 yards, rather than the 40, like that initial explosion for them?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's true. I think the 10-yard split is what a lot of people pay more attention to than the overall 40, right? Like it's the 10 and then the 20 and then the 40. And I think most people put more stock, for offensive linemen at least, into the 10-yard split. And I was pretty satisfied with my 10-yard split. I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head. I think it's like 1.7 something, but I was pretty happy with it.
Let's just take an opportunity. I know we knocked them for their photography, but let's take an opportunity to shout out the people at Chattanooga, because you said you come in at 250 pounds and you have a gradual progression and you develop into an all-conference player and now a top draft prospect. To me, they did a pretty good job there in the strength and conditioning department at Chattanooga. And, obviously had you gone to Tennessee, the Volunteers, they probably have more resources and, they'll tell you to have great training room. But that's not to say that you can't develop at a school like Chattanooga, because, you're firsthand evidence of that. Wow, what really, you got who's the strength and conditioning coach over there, because he seemed to have done a heck of a job.
Well, I would say that you are right. I would have to give props to the people at Chattanooga for sure. But it's kind of been an odd situation, because we've had several different coaches and several different strength coaches. I've had 4 different strength coaches at my time in Chattanooga. And the most recent one, Coach Pacidi, he's been there for, I guess coming up on about a year now. So, you know what I mean? So I had, my very first coach was there for 1 season, and then I had a strength coach who was there for 2 seasons, Coach Pearson, and then Coach Reeves was there for, I think, 2 seasons, but one of them was that COVID year. So there was a lot of change, honestly, and I'm not by any means trying to say like I did everything on my own, because I had a lot of help, but I think it's just like, the resources are there, the the availability of a weight room is there, but for the most part, like, no matter where you go, like Tennessee, Chattanooga, anywhere else, like, you have to be the one to get in the weight room and push the weight. You know what I mean? Like, you could have resources. It is probably more beneficial to teams with bigger, like, what do you call them? The training tables. Like, they can feed you whatever, because we didn't really have that. We had, like, Crossroads, which is a cafeteria on campus, which is what I ate at my first 2 years. And then whenever I moved off campus, I'd have to give more credit to my brother than anyone else, because he and I would, like, meal plan and we'd cook. Or he would really cook. I would help sometimes. But for the most part, it's like, all these guys, no matter what school they went to, whether it was the huge school or the small ones, like, they put in the work themselves,
No question. And obviously, a lot of it is on the individual as well. You can have a good supporting cast and a good environment, but it comes down to you, and if you're willing to put the work in, and if you want that for yourself. And obviously, you've done a heck of a job. A really impressive young man, and a great sense of humor too. I could sit here and chop it up with you all day. I think Rick is having some internet issues.
Yeah.
He's down at the Jersey Shore on the beach, and I guess the signal is fading over there. But
it's funny, because whenever I first got on, I heard it. I don't know if it was him or you. Somebody said something about the food, like, getting worse the farther away you get from New Jersey, New York. And I thought to myself, has he ever been to the South? Because I don't know if the food is better there than here. I said, whenever you said you had a bone to pick with me, I said, I don't know if you're the one that said that, but I have a bone to pick with whoever said that.
Well, he's an Italian-American guy, and around here we do have a lot of Italian-American food, and we have our great diners in New Jersey. But I do agree with you. The South has some good food to offer. There's no question about that. I actually think that Buffalo in Western New York is underrated for food. I mean, chicken wings, beef on weck, they have some great stuff too. But yeah, if you venture out into the Midwest to the South, New Jersey isn't the only place you can get good food. But I will tell you this, Cole, it's the only place where you can get good Italian food and good Italian bread. But, to each his own, man. I'll have some barbecue or whatever. Obviously, I don't miss many meals, so whatever it is, I'll join you for some barbecue or whatever any day of the week.
Yeah, I was about to say, I hadn't been up there, but maybe a handful of times. I think actually just one time back in high school. And I didn't really get to eat, a whole bunch of different foods or go to, like, local restaurants and whatnot. It was for a visit. But so I don't really know what kind of food is up there. Honestly, the only thing I've heard of, like, as far as New York, I guess this wouldn't really go for New Jersey, but New York City is, like, the pizza is supposed to be the best thing up there.
Yeah, New York, New Jersey pizza. Connecticut says they have good pizza too. It's not bad. But as you can see, these Italian pastries and desserts and stuff, like, you guys don't have that down south. But then again, I don't mind a pecan pie or whatever too. So
yeah, a whole bunch of cake. You can't go wrong with that.
I hear you. Well, Cole, listen, on behalf of Rick, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show this morning. We really appreciate your time, and like I said, you're a really cool guy with an interesting story, a great sense of humor, a pretty good 40 time, and hopefully a great future in the NFL. I really wish you well throughout what's now the end of the draft process. It really had to feel like a marathon for you, I'm sure. And now it'll finally come to an end at the end of this week. And I wish you all the best.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much.
And before we let you go, just one more parting shot from you.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to those NFL GMs and, why should they draft Cole Strange
man. I hate these questions.
As early as possible?
I hate talking about myself like this. I would say, I would say the thing about me that, in my opinion, sets me apart the most. I do consider myself good as far as, blocking technique, but I think the most important thing is just finishing. And, I think it comes down to a mentality, being aggressive and trying to play mean. I wouldn't necessarily say dirty, but, being physical and trying to bury the guy that you're going against every single play. I think that's what sets me apart. Yes, sir.
No, and I agree with you. For an offensive lineman, from the snap to the whistle, there has to be that streak of nastiness, so to speak. It's the object of the game is to put the other player on his rear end. So it's not, you're not supposed to be out there hugging each other. So I totally agree. But with that said, thank you so much, Cole Strange from Chattanooga, offensive line prospect. Can play all 5 positions.
Yes, sir.
And we really appreciate him joining us today on the State of Football. Thank you, Cole. For Ric Serritella, who's having those internet issues at the Jersey Shore, I'm Ralph Ventre. Thank you for watching today's show. We'll be back every day this week. It's draft week here on the State of Football NFL Draft Bible on Sports Illustrated. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
I'm J.R. Davis. I'm the Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Northwest Georgia. We serve about 3,000 kids in Northwest Georgia. And I just wanted to say thank you to the NFL Draft Bible for showcasing our organization and the thousands of kids we serve and our STEAM Academy. And we are hoping to have a long-standing partnership with you and get a lot of our kids involved in this